At this time, I would like to introduce tonight's keynote speaker, Lieutenant General Donald M. Campbell Jr. from the Gamma Xi chapter at Kansas State University. His 35-year career in the U.S. Army has taken him all over the world. Brother Campbell got his start in the Army in 1978 with the 1st Battalion, 63rd Armor at Fort Riley, Kansas, where he served as the tank platoon leader, company executive officer, Battalion S1, adjutant, and company commander. Did you do all those things at one time? 5 times, okay. In 1984, he was assigned to Germany, where he fulfilled a variety of roles, including operations officer for the 4th Battalion, 69th Armor in Mainz, Germany. Brother Campbell would eventually graduate from the Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and go on to be selected to serve as the executive officer to the commanding general for the Personnel Command, which is the Human Resources Command of the U.S. Army. Brother Campbell's service would take him overseas again when he assumed the position of Deputy Director of Staff Operations for the Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers in Mons, Belgium. He would eventually assume the command of the 1st Brigade, 4th Infantry Division in June 2001. This brigade, known as the Raider Brigade, was instrumental in the early operations of Iraqi freedom. Brother Campbell currently serves as the commanding general of Fort Hood in Texas. He is the recipient of the Distinguished Service Medal, 2 Bronze Star Medals, Meritorious Service Medal, Army Commendation Medal, Army Achievement Medal, Combat Action Badge, Parachutist Badge, and Recruiter Badge. Lieutenant General Campbell's ascension through the ranks of the U.S. Army is a clear example of his dedication and service to a greater good. He has exemplified the values of Lambda Chi Alpha with amazing grace while he has continued to protect this country through his actions. It is a great honor to present Lieutenant General Donald Campbell. Brother Campbell.
Please, thank you. Sit down. You haven't heard the speech yet. You have to bear with me. I'm going solo tonight. I usually have an aide-de-camp, and he does everything for me. No, not everything. But I have to say, it's pretty remarkable being here tonight, the 54th Outer Circle Banquet, and I look at some of these young men who were born in 1991, and damn, do I feel old. And I am old. To Brother Behrens, to the national officers, thank you for that kind introduction, and to our distinguished guests, Lambda Chi Alpha brothers, thank you to all the brothers who have done so much to make this General Assembly what it means to this fraternity, which I love so dearly. It's going to be a wonderful week and weekend, and I'm proud to be a part of it, albeit a small part. And I thank you for inviting me and allowing me to share with you for a few moments, and I promise it won't be long, a little bit about the values of this great fraternity and the values of the United States Army and how they're interrelated and interconnected. And we both focus on service. But before I do that, I thought I'd share with you a little humor. I've been fortunate to be promoted to Brigadier General, Major General, Lieutenant General. And I have a wonderful bride who I've been married to for 34 years. I've known her for 39. In fact, we met at Fort Riley, Kansas in 1973 when our dads were battalion commanders. She has a way of putting me in my place, and I'll give you another way that she does that. After I was selected for Brigadier General, we went back to her hometown near Joplin, Missouri. Spent some time there being feted, being congratulated for making general officer, and probably couldn't get my head through the door a few times after going to some events. We finally got back in the car, 2 cars to go home because we were moving some stuff back to our home at Fort Knox, Kentucky. And we stopped at the gas station to fill up. And I proceeded to fill my car up, and my wife jumped out and ran and met a young man that was working at the gas station. And so I decided, okay, I'll fill her car up. I got done filling hers up. I got the bills. I paid everything. I got back in my car, and I said, come on, we've got to go. And she looked at me and gave me the Heisman. I'll be there in a minute. And I said, look, we really got to get on the road. We've got an 8.5-hour drive. It's a little bit of ways. I got to go to work tomorrow morning. Got a lot of important things to do. I'm going to be a general officer. She looked at me and said, I'll be there in a few minutes. And then she and this gentleman started getting a little close. So I got a little nervous, and I said, look, we really have to get on the road. Finally, after about 5 minutes, she came and leaned over into the car window, and I said, who was that? And she says, well, that was John. John and I went to high school together. And at one point, we were very close, and we even talked about getting married. I said, you never mentioned John to me. You didn't tell me that you were that close to another man. She said, no, I didn't. I didn't think it was that important. And, trying to think of something to come back with, I said, well, just think, if you had married John, you'd be married to a guy in Joplin, Missouri that was pumping gas. And she looked at me and said, no, if I'd married John, John would be a general officer and you'd be pumping gas wherever you were living. So I've learned my lesson. I'm a good spouse, as we say in the Army, good husband. Try to make it work. Let me begin by just saying that it truly is an honor to be here tonight. I appreciate the invite, and that Lambda Chi Alpha has always been more than just another fraternity to Don Campbell. It is true brotherhood, and I'm honored that you asked me to speak to you, all of you, my true brothers, this evening. I'd also like to talk to you a little bit tonight about another brotherhood, its core values, and how those values align with a very similar organization. And finally, I want to talk about one of my most deeply held personal values, teamwork, which has always fit into and reinforced the core values of both of these organizations. Ours has always been a brotherhood driven by commitment to values. Warren Albert Cole knew that laying out these values was essential to building an organization that would endure and prosper over time. He knew that these values would serve as a compass to each member of this wonderful fraternity and to the brotherhood as a whole. He set out our initial guiding tenets of fostering moral and spiritual standards based on Christian ideals, honorable friendship, intellectual excellence, brotherly love, and the establishment of relationships that encompass alumni, undergraduates, and colleges, and of course, the virtues of courage, self-control, obedience, democracy, and courtesy. These values define our brotherhood. They endure even to this day. They are not subject to social evolutions or fashion. They are not affected by world events or global economics or environmental shifts. They are timeless moral imperatives, as valid and indispensable today as they were when Mr. Cole carefully and deliberately chose them to summarize all we stand for. In 2006, we updated the verbiage used to convey these values. The result was a more concise and more focused list that encompasses all of our timeless values. These 7 core values are the basis for all that our brotherhood accomplishes year after year. It serves as exactly the compass that Warren Albert Cole intended it to in 1909. In our complex, challenging, and ever-changing world, these 7 core values serve as a guide in the preparation of men to live full, productive, and meaningful lives. It's a daunting task. This purpose of our brotherhood, just beyond the world of college, where our true brothers embrace and master these values, as unsympathetic world awaits, full of moral, physical, and intellectual challenges. Our fraternity seeks to prepare men to enter this crucible and to indeed excel and lead there. We know from our own experience that without these 7 core values, our preparations would be incomplete. One could liken it to preparing men to fight in a war. In fact, the core values of Lambda Chi Alpha are almost identical to the core values of the most successful, most adaptable, and most morally anchored force in the world today, the United States Army. This is not a coincidence. This parallel value system is a result of the fact that both organizations are dedicated to preparing men to perform excellently and provide leadership in the face of unknown, unpredictable, diverse, and often threatening circumstances. Both organizations know the indispensable nature of discipline, of a code of conduct, of moral character, and of leadership. And I would add that the notion of leadership itself is not complete without incorporating the notion of teamwork, a personal value of mine that has proven itself indispensable throughout my military career and life. Leadership and teamwork for both the Army and our brotherhood are concepts that both best summarize our ideals. We produce leaders and teams, not in an attempt to concentrate power, but rather to provide the greatest benefit to all men. Leadership itself also happens to be the acronym we both use to help us organize our core values. Loyalty. To our true brothers, this refers to the need to correctly order our obligations and commitments. Loyalty to Lambda Chi Alpha and to our brothers, first and foremost, prevents us from placing that loyalty incorrectly elsewhere. In the Army, our loyalty, equally strong, equally essential to the moral strength of our cause, is to our nation, our Army, and to our fellow soldiers. Loyalty, like leadership, is almost impossible to separate from the notion of teamwork. Whether it is loyalty to your true brothers or to your fellow soldiers, it is always loyalty to your teammates, those who help you and will help you shoulder the burdens you bear even as you help them. Duty. For our true brothers, duty is that which is derived from all of our laws, rules, and customs. True brothers are expected to embody duty in all they do, especially in ethical matters, as it is the bedrock of value upon which all else rests. If our brothers do not do their duty, our entire brotherhood, our team, will suffer. Similarly, in the Army, duty is described as a soldier's knowledge of what to do in the absence of guidance, based on an inner sense of what is morally and professionally right. It affords our Army the indispensable advantage of leaders who can be relied upon to make the right call, to choose the hard right over the easy wrong, and to pursue their duties in a moral fashion, even in the chaotic environment of combat. Lambda Chi Alpha recognizes respect, the absolute dignity that every human possesses. There is no person in our entire landscape who we deem to be beneath the dignity. Our goals, our ideals, and our values hold merit and meaning for all men. In our Army today, the notion of respect is absolutely essential. Our Army is a team of teams, and at the heart of any effective team is the leader. Any leader who feels and gives respect, which is due to others, cannot fail to inspire in them regard for himself, while he who feels and hence manifests disrespect towards others, especially his subordinates, cannot fail to inspire hatred against himself. Respect for all team members is a non-negotiable requirement in our Army today. We instill it, we expect it, and we demand it. It is as important to the success of our Army team as it is to the success of the Brotherhood and our team. Service and stewardship. The true brother knows the proper order of his priorities. The welfare of the organization comes before his own well-being. It is not the advancement or privilege that motivates the true brother. He is motivated by what is best for his brotherhood, this team, and broader community. Similarly, the Army leader places the needs of subordinates, the unit, the team, and the nation before his own. This is a constant that does not diminish with rank, but only increases. One interesting difference in the former core values of Lambda Chi Alpha and the Army is that our brotherhood specifically incorporates the notion of stewardship into the code. Each true brother knows their responsibility to hold our traditions and our organization as something of great value in trust for others. The Army certainly embodies this value. We have our customs, our traditions, and of course, 237 years of uninterrupted service to this great nation. Honor. True brothers and soldiers in our Army are aligned perfectly on this concept. Both agencies acknowledge the intrinsically public dimension of the core value. Both understand that honor is rooted in upholding traditions and standards that are known to all. In our brotherhood, we refer to this as the public code of the individual. In the Army, we referred to honor as upholding the oaths we took to publicly uphold the standards that are known publicly. We both grasp the immutable truth that a lack of honor has the potential to harm our organizations more than anything else and can never be tolerated. Safeguarding the honor of our organizations is the duty of all team members. Integrity. To the true brother, integrity embodies his whole set of values. Beyond what is observable by others, more than his ethical values, integrity encompasses his moral and private values as well. Similarly, the soldier embraces this broader meaning. Integrity is what motivates a soldier to do what is right legally and morally. Soldiers of integrity do the right thing not because it is convenient or because they have no choice. They choose the right thing because their character permits no less. Personal courage, again, the one core value that perhaps more than all the others we have examined this evening, demonstrates how the similarity of our two missions has resulted in these two strikingly similar lists of core values. Both organizations are in the business of preparing men not only to survive, but to excel and ultimately to lead in an uncertain, ambiguous, and often threatening environment. We both have a history of instilling in men the ability, as the true brother knows, to persevere despite fear and danger, to perform critical self-assessments, and to confront new ideas. In the Army, we refer to these aspects of courage as physical and moral. Aside from the labels, the focus is identical. We train leaders to face physical danger, put fear aside, and do what is necessary. We instill a culture of aggressiveness and self-assessment and a willingness to change what needs changing. These 7 core values, common to both of these wonderful organizations, have always perfectly corresponded with my own great love of teams and teamwork. We have already seen how teamwork is enmeshed with these core values, and loyalty, respect, service, leadership itself are difficult to describe or even imagine without the dimension of teamwork. In my own experience in over 34 years of military service, no single factor has had a greater impact on the success of the Army than teamwork. As a leader, I make it my primary goal to ensure that every team member is recognized, respected, and that we build a team that is able to capitalize on the strengths of each and every member. At Fort Hood today, we are succeeding across a vast spectrum of endeavors. We train soldiers every day for combat, but we also work on highway construction, airport improvements, fielding new weapons, and implementing new force structures, new hospitals, schools, and major infrastructure renovations, because we are able to work within our community partners and form a team of teams. No one man achieves a military or organizational victory. No one decision maker accomplishes the mission. I never have, not in 34 years of doing this great profession. It has always been about my team. The effective leader's focus is on his team, how to nurture it, assess it, develop it, guide it, protect it, direct it. Our Army, like this, is a brotherhood, is a team. And that is why we have accomplished so very much that is right and good, in spite of the challenges too numerous to count. As I mentioned earlier, these core values are immutable. They do not change from one time to another over the years. They are ancient. They are true, and they have been validated by all the experience of human history. They are the most indispensable tools in allowing both true brother and American soldier to achieve their respective goals. Ours is an Army which draws not on our vast wealth or superior weapons for our power, but rather on the morality of our cause and our soldiers. The American soldier's knowledge of the moral primacy of his cause is essential to his effectiveness. Our Army's core values embrace and capitalize on this truth. In the same way, ours is a brotherhood founded on the sound moral principle codified in the same core values. We both consistently produce a special type of man, a man who has ordered his obligations and allegiances correctly, who fulfills his promises, who puts no other man beneath himself but sees the dignity in all, who puts the needs of others before himself, who consistently does what he knows to be morally right, both public with honor and in private with integrity, a man of courage. In our world so full of ungovernable dynamics, chaotic and unpredictable change, and ever-changing threats and opportunities, these core values provide one unmoving constant, a stable set of parameters that do not shift with the world around us, upon which we can base sound decisions. A magnetic north, exactly the moral compass Warren Albert Cole intended it to be. I stand before you tonight, a man doubly blessed. It has been and continues to be my profound honor to count myself in the number of not one, but two wonderful organizations that embrace, uphold, and cherish these values. Two organizations in which my own personal value for teamwork has meshed so perfectly with these organizational values. Two organizations operating in two different worlds, yet one radically different and yet strikingly similar. The fact that our respective core values are so similar and that both organizations consistently build and employ teams so effectively suggests nothing to me so strongly as this. These values are absolutely universal. They are always in the best interests of all leaders in all places and at all times. As we hold them, our true brotherhood, our Army, and our nation, we will continue not only to endure, but to thrive and to provide the leadership our world so desperately needs. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Congratulations to all the chapters that received awards tonight. Army strong, every man a man. Thank you.